Welcome back to The Naturalist, your go-to podcast for all things CPG. I'm one of the hosts, Jessica Rubino, here with my co-host,
Adrienne Smith.
That's your cue, Adrienne.
Did I get it right?
You got it right. You nailed it. And our guest today, Erika Craft. Erika, welcome back. You are no stranger to The Naturalist.
Yes, very happy to be here. Thank you, as always, for inviting me.
Well, thanks for being here. Today, we are going to talk about one of Nutrition Business Journal's latest reports, which is about
new NBJ report, the Supplement Industry Market Update and Economic Outlook Report. It's a long one.
Yeah.
It's a long one, but a short report, right? Is it a short report? Yeah.
Shorter than our core reports, than our typical NBJ reports. We're kind of treating it as like kind of what it sounds like in the title, a market update. So we're doing, a high level update for the 6 categories and 6 channels that we track within the supplement industry. Just with everything going on with changes in the economy and with tariffs and supply chain, we wanted to really take a closer look at the end of this year, 2025, and really see if our projections and estimates back in, early spring when we did the Supplement Business Report, we're still on par, basically, with what was happening throughout most of the year. Obviously, we all know there's been a lot of changes this year, so we felt like it needed a revisit.
It is essentially a supplement to the Supplement Business Report, is that?
It is, yes. So it's one of those reports where without the Supplement Business Report, you might be missing a couple details, but it still is really high level. But it is supposed to, if you bought the Supplement Business Report, be an addition onto that and really give you an update as to what's going on. But if you're still interested in, super high level and what's going on in the industry, it can still be, valuable for you too. So it kind of fits both needs. But we just keep getting a lot of questions of, what are you guys seeing in terms of, volume changes and pricing changes? And while we don't really track specifically, units or volume changes in our reports, we do take all of that into consideration for our updating when we are determining total year growth for 2025 for the industry. So we felt like, kind of giving an update, seeing where we're at. And it's actually interesting because normally NBJ publishes, just kind of like top line numbers like how we always do. But this time around, we're actually publishing 3 numbers. So 3 sets of numbers, basically. So one of them are the Supplement Business Report numbers. So you can kind of see what our baseline was. And then we have a light economic pullback and then a more dramatic economic pullback. So it's almost like a range of like what we think could happen in our forecasting for 2025 and for 2026. All the way until 2028.
So if you were going to give yourselves a grade on how well you did, comparing with what you found out now compared to your previous report, what do you think you'd get?
That's tough. I think in the beginning of this year, we were very optimistic, but I don't know if 2025 is ending out to be a bad year by any means. I would say a B-, because I think we did a pretty good job. NBJ, I can say, my opinion, I think we're generally pretty conservative. So I don't think we were like overly optimistic in the beginning of this year. And now we're like, oh my gosh, we're way off. But we are anticipating a little bit of a pullback. And so in my opinion, I think we're going to land somewhere around the light economic pullback. So just a little bit of a pullback on growth, a little bit of consumers, deciding to pull some of the money out of the market, but not anything, drastic.
So you're looking at overall industry growth, or are we just talking about the supplement market?
Just the supplement industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Erika, some of those, well, first of all, Adrienne, I had a question for you. What kind of student were you? Would a B- have been, how would that have fared in your high school days?
Well, I don't remember ever getting a B-.
But I think it's important, Erika, to note that, you can't predict a lot of the forces that are going to influence consumers. So it's really important to do these market updates because, what you predicted at that time was obviously reflective of what was going on in society.
Totally.
the economy. And so especially a year like this where there are constant fluctuations, whether it be around tariffs or consumer spending, there are so many different things that I feel like this year more than ever, we are in this wait and see mode. And so to revisit those numbers. So my question for you is, what do you think is the biggest factor that influenced some shifts in the numbers between early 25 and late 25?
I think the biggest impact is just the overall economy and how it's affecting consumer purchasing. So as of right now, I don't think supplement consumers are really experiencing a lot of price increases for their products because most supplement brands are trying to absorb it for as long as they can. And as far as I know, for the most part, that's still remaining to be true. But for next year, if all of these policies are still in place, we're not really sure what that's going to look like. So we did 2 surveys within this report. We did a general consumer survey and a supplement consumer survey. And we basically asked, supplement consumers, have you noticed price increases? Is it starting to really affect your purchase behavior? And overall, people are noticing some increase, but it's not really happening as much. And so people are trading down a bit. But overall, they're not stopping taking their supplements. Only like 4% of people said that they're stopping supplements altogether. So it's just a matter of like moving some dollars around in the market, which if you're trading down for lesser price products and more, if you go to Costco and it's a more value type brand, right? That might look a little bit different for how it ends up for the brands on the sales side. So that's a little bit of a decrease in sales, but that's not necessarily less in volume, right? So there will be some people, of course, who won't be buying as much, but there also might be people who are deciding too that they want these premium products because we're seeing that trend too in this space where like people are wanting to spend more money on these higher quality products. So it's like you kind of have 2 different sides happening that are pulling the market in 2 different ways, which is kind of bringing us more to a balance.
This episode of The Naturalist is sponsored by Premier Research Labs. Premier Research Labs, PRL, founded in 1987 by visionaries Dr. Robert Marshall and Dr. Linda Forbes, is a trailblazer in professional-grade nutritional supplements, driven by purity, fueled by innovation, and unwavering in its commitment to uncompromising quality. Born from the conviction that not all supplements are created equal, PRL redefined the industry with excipient-free, 100% plant-based formulas, solvent-free capsules, and extraordinary manufacturing practices that honor the body and the earth. With rigorous orthogonal and energetic testing, rejecting over 70% of raw materials that did not meet our exacting standards, PRL sets a premier benchmark for safety, potency, and trust. Guided by our mission to transform global wellness and anchored in the core values of transformation, extraordinary, and community, PRL empowers practitioners, patients, and conscious consumers to pursue optimal vitality, continuing to inspire a healthier, more connected world for today and for generations to come.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And circling back to something you said at the beginning of that, just around like you feel that a lot of supplement companies have been absorbing the cost. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And did you have conversations with brands that have done it? Because I have not seen the same thing on other consumer products, especially around the holidays. I'm like buying gifts and I'm like, oh, wow, these prices have definitely increased, particularly around like apparel, footwear, electronics, just seeing like I've seen costs kind of prices skyrocket in some of these categories. So I know food and beverage and supplements have experienced some of that, particularly key categories. Anyways, it's fascinating. What did you hear from companies if you talked to them?
Yeah, from the brands that I talked to, it seems like most brands are still trying to absorb those price increases, and they didn't tell me a lot of their strategy. It just kind of seems like they're waiting until the policy kind of balances out and to kind of see where we end up at the end of this year. But in the consumer survey that we saw, it kind of checks out. Consumers are noticing more of a price increase with gas, utilities, entertainment, groceries was a big one. So like you were saying, in the national organic food and beverage sector, that would be more of an impact. But again, supplements didn't really seem like there was that much of a noticeable increase from the consumer side. So that's good, but it's still a kind of a wait and see, especially for 2026. So,
And I think you noted, Erika, that, and this is something we saw in some other consumer research earlier this year, that even during like economically challenging times, consumers are still prioritizing those products for their health. So you had also mentioned like maybe shifting dollars from something that feels less essential, but they're almost viewing these as like truly essential goods, especially, you know, those core cup supplement users. So it sounds like we're continuing to see that, like, regardless of whether prices increase, consumers are still going to prioritize those products that they believe will make them healthier.
Yeah, and we actually asked the general consumers like how they viewed supplements, whether they thought they were essential or important or just optional. I believe over 50%, if you combine both essential and important, thought of that for supplements. So, I mean, really, and that's general consumers. That would make sense, obviously, for a supplement consumer. They're already kind of bought in. But for these general consumers, they're still pretty bought on to supplements being a priority for them. And yeah, I mean, I just think that I also like to compare this time to 2022 when the supplement industry took a huge correction after a huge growth in 2020. Also, there was a lot of economic stress in 2022 as well. I mean, I think a lot of us remember that. And so kind of comparing it to that time, we're seeing at least consumers are feeling more optimistic this time around. Again, they might be comparing it back to then too and being like, this isn't as bad as that. So I think overall, we're not expecting this to be similar to 2022 when we saw a lot of dollars, you know, and people really, truly cutting back in a dramatic way. This doesn't feel like one of those times. And we have some survey data to longitudinally compare that. And that's in this report. So I think that that's really rich data.
I had shared something from the Wall Street Journal with the content team a few days ago as well, but just around kind of like premium or specialty or niche products that are still performing well, even as consumers are purchasing fewer packaged products. So that's more of an observation around the whole natural and organic product industry, that some of these like smaller niche brands that may come with a higher price tag are still doing well, and that consumers who are able are still making those purchases. Did you see some of that in your surveys around like premium products?
Yeah, I actually saw some of it in some point of sale data, and also going through all of the publicly traded companies too, going through their reports. I mean, they have quarterly, you know, finance releases and press releases that talk about a lot of this stuff. Let me take a step back. I think it's important to look at this in two different lenses. You have a general supplement consumer who might be a little more basic, right? They might be taking their multi from Costco, and that's great. But in times of economic hardship, they might pull back a little bit. They might buy a little bit less, but they might put their money elsewhere, right? And then you have the more premium consumer who has the money to spend and isn't as financially stretched thin. And so they're still going to be spending their money on these more premium specialized products because the formula might be more scientifically validated. It might be, you know, more effective for them in that effectiveness on whatever symptom that they're treating, right? And they're going to say, I still really value this product because I know it works for me, so I'm going to spend more money on it. So it's like, again, talking about these two different forces that are going on here, you kind of have a little bit of a balance. And so you just have to know who your consumer base is and then kind of go from there.
So, Erika, is this report available now?
It is. It is available now. I believe it's $19.95. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or my colleague Cindy Van Schowen. She handles a lot of the sales as well. But we also have some free resources. We did an NBJ live on this, I believe, before the break. So if you're wanting kind of a high level discussion on that, you can take a look at that too.
Great. Well, and we always look forward to your analyst takes on newhope.com, which always offer great insight from all of the reports and the great work that Nutrition Business Journal does. So,
and before we talk, Erika, is there any like hot nugget from the report? Don't give it away, but anything that's
love a hot nugget.
Love hot nugget around here. Tis the season for hot nuggets. But what is it that you think is most valuable in this report for people doing business in the supplement industry right now?
Oh man, I think having those three different numbers and projections, I think that that's a huge value add because that's also like we're giving you three entire data sets almost for the industry, and we don't typically do that. So that's one. And also two, we also asked a survey back from late last year, early this year, and throughout this year, and consumer sentiment about, the economy and the Trump administration and kind of tying all of that together. And to see those data points over the course of, just even from January to now, it's pretty crazy, the difference that we see in the data. And so I think that's one of the more compelling insights from this report. So I'm not going to give away specific numbers.
Great. Well, thank you so much.